talk about the fan fiction aspect of it. I will say, I've said this before, as a writer, fan fiction bothers me just because it's so against every reason that I write. Like, part of the fun of writing for me is, you know, waking up with that idea, or, you know what I mean? And then you just can't help but scribble it down and develop the characters and develop who they are and their, you know, where they came from and where they're going and all that. That's like the fun of writing. So for me, I get inspired. When I read Harry Potter, I was inspired to write. When I read Twilight, I was inspired to write hopefully better, you know. But I mean, like, the fun of it is being inspired to do your own thing. So I don't get the fan fiction community and wanting, like, I have no interest in putting words and situations in other people's characters' mouths and, you know, creating worlds for them or situations in a world somebody else created. But apparently, this started off as Twilight fan fiction, and I don't know if it just, because it took off on the internet, she then pulled it. According to a couple of people who were very heated about this in the Goodreads group, she changed the names from Bella and Edward to Christian and Anna or whatever, and, you know, she just changed everything up, and then she published it on her own. And that was my question for Barbara. This is self-published?
Yes. Originally, it was self-published. Well, it was through a tiny electronic publisher, is what I heard.
Okay.
And distributed that way. As far as the fan fiction stuff goes, I have written it, and I have read a lot of it. I have a certain 327-page Firefly fanfic that I don't share with others. Mostly because, you know, to me, it's a writing exercise.
Okay.
It's kind of like how the great painters painted, you know, the master works first. To me, it's when I can't think of anything of my own, I go out and say, well, what would Mal do today, you know, in Firefly? What would he ever fall in love? Would he ever be able to let his guard down and really let a woman in? And, you know, that kind of stuff is what would I have done with it. As far as publishing it, my biggest problem with her is, and this work, is it is so derivative of Twilight, but I don't know, it doesn't seem to have any of the charm. And I told Alex, Twilight is not well written. Alex is my husband. I told him it's not well written, but it's got a charm about it. And the substitutions are so glaring that anyone who's read Twilight is going to spend the whole time going, oh yeah, there's her dad as Charlie.
Yeah.
And anyone who hasn't is not going to be compelled because, like Linnea said, there's no depth to the characters that we can refer back to from the master work. So that's the problem with bad fanfic, is once you take it out of that realm, it doesn't make sense anymore.
There's no context for it. And, okay, another thing about fan fiction, because I enjoy it too. Not all of it. I mean, there's a shit ton of, like, horrifically bad fanfic out there.
Yes.
Because, you know, you've got, like, 15-year-olds, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Who don't read.
What I say to people is, who don't understand why anybody would want to do it, it's when you finish a really good book or a really good movie and you're just so in love with that world and the characters, and you're saying to yourself, and then what happened?
Yeah.
You know, like you want to, or you want to explore a subtext that you saw that wasn't, you know, fully developed in the work. Then you might want to work that out for yourself. You might want to write it down, and it's a writing exercise. So, you know, I don't hate on that at all, and I think that it gets a lot of, especially young kids, interested in writing because they get in somebody else's world with somebody else's characters, and it's like a choose your own adventure.
Okay, but then is it okay to then, you know, take Twilight and create this whole world where Edward is now a multi-billionaire and Bella just graduated from college and uses way too many big words? Let's just talk about that for a second.
Oh, God.
Yes, Anna, you have a thesaurus, we know.
Yeah, I was just like...
There is similitude of...
Right, but before we get to that, is it okay? Yeah, all fiction is derivative.
No, but is it okay, though, to take that, right, and name everybody different? I mean, you know, I'm sorry, have the same characters, have it be forked, and then say, oh, I want to publish this, so now Bella is Anna, Edward is Christian,
Portland.
Forks is Portland and Seattle, and Jacob is now Jose. So all this, you know, and then call it something different, put your name on it, and self-publish that. Is that okay?
I think it's okay. I just think it's a bad idea. Like, it's going to be shitty, but it's not illegal, and, you know, yeah, I think it's fine.
Yeah, because can Stephanie Meyer sue her for all her money she's making? Because that's her story.
Well, I don't know. It would depend on the level of detail. Like if she had kept the paranormal aspect in it, I would say she absolutely had a case.
Yeah.
She stripped enough out, I think, to make it, her own, so to speak, and also to ruin it because now we don't get it.
Unfortunately, stripping the stuff out, it falls flat.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
So,
Well, how flat does it fall? Because she's selling a shit ton of books. We're talking about it. All the talk shows.
Making babies.
Can I just also say one more thing about
9 months from now, there'll be little Annas and Christians
everywhere. One thing I also felt when I was reading it, and I was thinking about the whole, what do women want to read? One thing about this book, now this is in no way relatable to the Hunger Games as far as quality of writing, as far as story, as far as audience, but when I read the Hunger Games, my first thought was, oh God, my kids are definitely going to want to read this. How old would they have to be before we can read it as a family? Nothing feels like mine once I became a mother. And I think this 50 Shades of Grey, for a lot of women, they're like, that's my book.
Right.
My husband's not going to read it, except for yours, Linnea. My husband's not going to want to read it. My kids are never going to read it because, of course, we don't ever want to imagine a world where our kids are reading erotica. And it kind of feels like where you have no territory that's your own as a mom and as a woman and all that. You got this book, damn it, and that's mine. You know what I mean? And I think that's got a lot of appeal for women.
I don't have to share this.
Can we have? I mean, why is this ours?
Well, no, it's not mine. I'm just saying.
Just for me, when I read, I like the feeling of I don't want to put this down. And when I put it down because I have to put it down, I can't wait to pick it back up.
Right.
And this book didn't do that all the time. It did it sometimes. Sometimes, I was getting into it and I was like, okay, I can't put this down. By the end of it, like I was telling somebody, I think I liked about 40% of the book. I liked from 15% to about 56%, and then it was just like crap. And the only reason I want to read the next two is because you two, Barbara and Wendy, have read it, and you guys are talking about it around us, and I'm just like, oh, damn it, I got to know what they're talking about.
Oh. Just skim through it. Just skim.
I wondered, because, okay, here's the thing, and I actually have this underlined. I was just looking through my notes and stuff, and I remember when, he finds out she's a virgin, and he's like, she says something like,
rectify the situation.
Yeah. And she goes, are we going to make love now? And he goes, I don't make love. I fuck hard. And I was like, woo, yes. It's getting good now because I was waiting for the penetration. So then we get to the sex, and I was like, okay, this is hot. Like I said, it just reminds you of the first time you're with a man, and it's like, you find yourself in positions you didn't even know you could do, and you're just like, oh, this is great, So I was like, okay. But then I thought about it, and then he says to her, well, that was vanilla sex. And I was like, ooh, so when are we going to get to, like, the hot fudge sundae chocolate sex?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I thought, well, okay, well, maybe it wasn't like that because this is the vanilla sex. But then I'm reading, I'm thinking, well, this is like the sex most of us are having, and I think most of us will slip in a dirty word here or there. Yeah, I thought there was a lack of potty mouth while they were having sex.
I mean, I think if you're having this kind of supposedly risque sex, and you're this dominant guy, especially from him, wouldn't you be using those words? But this is where I would really want to talk to somebody in that lifestyle who, I would want to know. Maybe they don't. Maybe they don't. Okay.
I think you hit on it before when you said it made you feel like you were reading somebody who you wonder if she'd had sex. Like, to me, this read a lot like fanfic that's written by, like, really young teenagers who are writing about what they think dirty sex is like.
Yeah, okay.
And Linnea, the reason I thought that was because, and we talked about this personally, and we've been, voxing and texting with our girlfriends who are reading at the same time. The reason I thought that is because she's a virgin, and she took to a lot of this stuff very quickly.
Right.
You know what I mean? He was putting the Benoit balls in her vagina and telling her to go fetch him a glass of water. And I'm sorry, I've not been a virgin for quite a few years now, decades. And I would think there would be a moment when I'm walking down the hallway with Benoit balls going, what the fuck am I doing? Like, But everything to her was like, 2 seconds of, this is weird, and then the rest was also pleasurable. I mean, I didn't get that. Like, I just felt like the E.L. James just did not have a grasp on how sex really works. Like,
oh, she writes for TV, right?
Yeah, she is a
television writer.
Yeah.
So they don't do that kind of stuff on TV.
Yeah.
It's got to be keen.
Like, everything was too perfect. Anna didn't have a gag reflex.
True.
Her first
she
blowjob
made it
was
all the way through college
amazing.
without finding that out.
Yeah. Her first blowjob was amazing.
And he's supposedly giant, but she loses her virginity, and there's like nothing incredible about it.
Mm-hmm. And the other concern we had is that he didn't last very long. Once he put it in, he was done.
There's a saying in Brazil. They say, "This is gonna be good, wasn't it?"
Yeah, he was like, as a matter of fact, like I think our friend Katoria was like, he was a 3-pump chump, and then Megan goes, no, I think it was more like 2 pumps. He was like 2 pumps, and he was done.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What did you guys think? This is one thing that bugged me, and I don't know, maybe it's just me because I have a potty mouth. But I didn't understand that they could be having this kind of sex, and the only bad word they ever used was fuck. There was no cock, there was no pussy, there was no...
I know! I missed that.
There was nothing. There was... I was like, come on, really?
She kept referring to his penis as his length.
And her sex.
Yeah, it was like, here's the thing. I do like Harlequin romances. If they're well done, they totally serve the purpose, right? If they're very formula, but they trigger all the happy places and they take you on that journey. I like erotica. It was like she tried to do both, and to me, failed at both.
Right, and language in erotica is tough because, I mean, I've read some of it too, and it's very hard to try to find ways to describe body parts that are not too clinical and not so graphic that it's going to alienate somebody. You got your people who are going to go one or the other, but, and then he put his penis inside my vagina. Like that, that's not going to make anybody hot. That's going to feel like
Barbara, slow it down, honey. Woo!
What do we think of her inner goddess?
Ugh.
I hate that bitch.
I was reading it, and at one point, I told the name, I was like, her inner goddess is a whore. She's always salsa and merengue and flipping all over the place. But then the subconscious was like hiding behind the couch.
Inner goddess means vagina, yes? Because every bad decision, but that would lead to sexy times, her inner goddess is like, yeah! And the subconscious is like, run, bitch, run. Like, he's crazy. He's gonna, he's gonna murder us in our sleep.
What I found more unbelievable was the super Mac that he gave her. That Mac, that wireless. He had the wireless connection of life. That was like the super Mac of all times.
I
was
would
the
do
computer that
a lot
actually
of
runs
those
the
things to get
internet.
that Mac.
What did you say, Barbara?
I would do a lot of those dirty things to get that Mac.
Seriously.
Did anybody get annoyed by how she wouldn't accept the gifts, like the new car and the expensive?
Yes, take that shit.
Yeah, no kidding.
But that's that one moment when the author was trying to show, see, she is a strong woman.
Oh.
Yeah.
In email she is.